כי כל יום שעובר הגוף שלי הולך, נחלש, נראה רזה יותר וחלש יותר. מבחינתי זה נראה שאני בדרך למוות שלי. אני חובר לעצמי את הקבר שבו אני אולי אשכב. ובאמת, כל יום שהולך ועובר, הזמן נגמר. הזמן הולך ואוזל. ורק אתם תוכלו לעצור את זה, כדי שנוכל לשכב במיטה שלי.
We're looking now at the horrifying image of 24-year-old Evyatar David that has shaken the world as he is forced by his Hamas captors to lift a shovel, and as they have instructed him to say, Evyatar complies. He says, "I'm digging my own grave," literally. We can also see in the video how the simple act of standing, of holding the shovel, of attempting to dig into the hard, dry earth in the tunnel where he has existed for almost 2 years now, how that effort absolutely exhausts him. And after saying that he expects to die there and lie in this dirt, that this will be his end, Evyatar David folds in on himself, buries his head in his hand. This footage you just saw is from last week. It was believed to have been shot last week. Evyatar himself refers to the day being July 27th at one point, and it was released to the public just last Saturday evening. And we can only assume that the other 19 hostages who are thought to be alive in Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad captivity, that they too are the living dead. They have hours, maybe days, to live. Israelis, as you might imagine, are gutted. And so is much of the civilized world, or what's left of it. And all of the questions that you are asking, so are we. What is the Israeli government going to do now? So Yakov, Katz, and I get into this for a very quick analysis and update today. Before we get going with the discussion between me and Yakov, I'm just going to please ask our listeners to consider supporting our work with a paid subscription. Go to stateoftelaviv.com and follow the prompts. Or you can make a one-time donation to Buy Me a Cup of Coffee. You'll see the logo on the screen now. We are independent, and we deeply appreciate your support. Our work is intense and time-consuming. Thank you for considering this request. Please give us a boost. I'm Vivian Berkovich, former Canadian ambassador to Israel. Let's do this. Monday, August 4th, 1:20 in Israel. Thanks for joining on such short notice. Yakov Katz. Let's get right to it. We are in a really terrible situation in Israel, and the nation was beyond rattled. We're left beyond reeling from those horrific images that everyone saw of Rom Braslavski and then Evyatar David, beyond gaunt, forced to dig his own grave in a tunnel. And we wait for our government to do something. And as of this morning, all we know is that they're meeting. We know that Prime Minister Netanyahu and Minister Dermer, Bezalel Smotrich, and Itamar Ben-Gvir are leaning towards continuing the war, as if that's going to free our hostages. And on the other side, we have Yadi's Chief of Staff, the head of the Mossad, the National Security Advisor, Tzachi Hanegbi, and others saying, let's make a deal. Let's just end this disaster. What's going on, Yakov? What do you think is going to happen? Where are we at? Take it where you want to go.
I mean, I wish I had good news or something positive to say, but unfortunately, I think in just your short introduction, you outlined the reality. And the reality is such that over the last few days, we've seen the videos, grotesque, horrific, heartbreaking, heart-wrenching, piercing our hearts. You can only cry. Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, was on Sunday, and watching those videos really, you don't have to go back thousands of years to think about the destruction of the Jewish people. You're seeing it happening before your eyes. Literally, there are people alive who are emaciated and starving, and they are dying, literally dying, if we don't bring them home. I mean, that's it.
Hours, if not days away
Yeah,
from
I mean, it's neither of us are physicians, we're not scientists, but you don't have to be to see it. I mean, you can't survive like that. And instead, our government, which didn't convene like it does usually on the weekly meeting on Sunday because of the fast day, so convened on Monday, just as we're speaking. And what were the most important items on the government's agenda? Well, the first one was it's time to, of course, we have to dismiss the attorney general, right? That's the greatest threat to the state of Israel. And this government, the government led by Benjamin Netanyahu, has been after Gali Baharav Miara for the last basically almost 3 years now, since they took office, as if she is the obstacle to Israel winning the war. She is the obstacle for this government to be able to adopt and implement its policies. She is like the all evil, which is complete ludicrousy, but doesn't make a difference. And this is what they're focused on, as opposed to, I mean, there should be no issue that is more important than one: getting Rom, getting Evyatar, and getting the other 18 hostages who are believed to be alive to come back home. Just complete disconnect of the government from what's happening on the ground. And they pay lip service and they try to make it sound like this is their priority and this is what they're doing. And Netanyahu put out a post talking about how his wife was heartbroken to see. I mean, we don't really care, to be
I
honest.
don't care at all.
Right.
I don't care at all. Like, with the greatest respect, Sarah Netanyahu, it's not about you. It's about saving these lives. And to your point, Yakov, saying that, we're sitting there on Tisha B'Av, and is not one of the holiest principles, values in Judaism to save life. Pikuach nefesh, we say in Hebrew. That is more than ample justification for convening an urgent session of the cabinet on Sunday. And they didn't do that?
I mean, but by the way, I want to cry, not laugh, but did you see what Simcha Rotman said this morning? So Simcha Rotman is a member of the Knesset. He's part of Bezalel Smotrich's party, the Religious Zionist Party. He is the chairman of the Law and Constitution Committee in the Knesset, one of the architects of the judicial reform that ripped this country apart back in 2023, leading up to the October 7th attack. And he said today, very right-wing, very anti-establishment, and also been opposed to any deal that would bring back the hostages and would end the war. And he said today we shouldn't even watch these videos. It's Hamas propaganda. And I will refuse to watch it. By the way, I mean, it's something that Smotrich has also said in the past as well. Yes, they're terrible. Yes, they're painful to watch. But I think you have to watch them. We can't ignore this reality. This is happening as we speak. We all have to watch these videos and understand what's happening. And for a Knesset member, a senior member of the Knesset, a senior member of the coalition, to say, I won't watch the videos and it's Hamas propaganda, what you're trying to do is to hide the failures that are on your hands, because it was your government and your coalition in control, and that led to this disaster during which these 251 people were taken back on October 7th. And they are rotting away in captivity because of decisions that you are making. Yes, Hamas is to blame, 100%. But this government is making decisions that it can't absolve itself. We can't just pretend the videos aren't there. The fact that a member of the coalition, a senior member of the coalition, could say something like that is obscene.
It is. And it's also consistent with the way in which not just senior members of this coalition have behaved throughout this crisis since October 7th, but most sitting members of Knesset have not watched the videos for whatever reason they choose to justify. I don't even care anymore.
And I mean, I get it, by the way. I do kind of understand. No one wants to go near this issue because it'll stick to them. And this is as black and white terms of a failure as it gets, right? And therefore, you always want to play this dance. And that's what the coalition does all the time. It pays lip service. It's an objective of the war. But practically speaking, we don't see any moves on the ground that are really aimed at getting these people home.
Because there aren't. And because we know. I want to, though, get to your comment about what are we doing? What are we doing to even get them out? We have the IDF chief of staff saying there is no military justification for this war. We have all of the former heads of the Shin Bet, Mossad, IDF chiefs who put out this video yesterday saying this is a farce. It's got to stop. There's no justification for this war whatsoever from a military perspective. I think that we agree that when Netanyahu and his cabinet decided to launch Operation Gideon's Chariots to bring back the hostages, and commensurate with that was holding up or stopping humanitarian aid from going into Gaza for a period of time. The logic, of course, being we're going to put pressure on Hamas because if civilians don't have food, then they'll be, riled up and that will pressure Hamas. Well, I hate to put it this way, but you can't suck and blow. I mean, you can't say, which the prime minister does rightly, that Hamas is a murderous death cult that is impervious to the pain and suffering of its people. It is absolutely prepared to sacrifice its people, to embed within the population, to have them suffer for the greater goal of annihilating Israel and liberating Al-Quds, the Temple Mount. You cannot take that position on the one hand and then on the other say, we're going to hold up humanitarian supplies and that's going to really put the squeeze on Hamas. Now here we are. Clearly it didn't work. 2 months later, looking at these horrific images, knowing clearly what's going on in those tunnels. And we're also told that the prime minister and the cabinet have been briefed about their condition for months. The prime minister came out and said, I'm shocked. No, you're not. You're not shocked. You have known this. The people, over 80% of the people in Israel are desperate, according to successive polls, for this to end. We can't agree on what day of the week it is here. 80% want this to end. Devil's in the details, but that's a pretty profound statement from the population. So I don't think up until now, the people outside of Israel understand how torn apart the people who live here are, how anguished, and how not supportive of this government. And we are not all leftist anarchists and crazy. Where does this leave us, Yakov?
No, we aren't all leftist anarchists.
The government would have the world believe that.
Of course, well, anyone who's against them. But I mean, there's a few things to unpack. The first is, I think what people need to recognize and realize, because you kind of touched on this, and I was asked this also a couple of times, is why would Hamas even put out these videos? Why would it want to show it's starving and killing hostages, right? Isn't it all about branding, public relations, making themselves look good? They're the victims. Israel's supposed to be the one starving them, not the other way around. And I think what people need to realize also is something just very simple and basic, and that is Hamas doesn't care, right? They have one objective, and that's to survive and remain in power. And the way to do that is to, yes, put out these videos, to pierce every Israeli in the heart, to get the Israeli people to take to the streets, to protest, and to get their country to do the right thing. At least that's what you and I think, right? And to bring them home, even at the expense and the cost of ending the war. So that's their main objective. And they see that as the potential way to remain in power, mostly because this government, and this has also long been the problem, and to some extent, this is the problem, and the cause of a lot of Israel's problems right now, is the fact that this government, because of politics, refuses to articulate and outline what is the plan. Right. So it says its objectives: get back the hostages, defeat Hamas. It doesn't say what that means. It doesn't say what will happen. 70% of Gaza is destroyed. Who rebuilds it? Who governs it? So they refuse to talk about that because that's where the coalition potentially fragments and falls apart. You could say, why is that important for them to, yes, outline this plan? Is because when the world looks at us right now, they hear and they see that Israel is fighting for what purpose? No one even knows anymore. We don't understand. The IDF chief of staff has said to them, listen, I don't know what we're doing. The soldiers on the ground are already saying, look, we're not doing anything, right? We're sitting ducks. So we're just pretty much defending ourselves and our positions, but we're not moved. There's no movement. There's no progress. And a sitting army is always going to be an army that's static, is not an army that can really defend itself in a good way and effectively, and will become a target, and we'll start to see more soldiers get killed, and there's been several dozen over the last couple of months. So this whole Chariots of Gideon operation hasn't really been the success that everyone thought it would be. So what's left? More land to take, occupy more land, conquer more territory, control the entire Gaza Strip, annex part of Gaza. I mean, that's what Smotrich and Ben-Gvir will tell you, right? We need to annex part of Gaza, that we need to take it away from them. Is that what's going to put the pressure on Hamas to give back the hostages? Probably not. So everyone understands that there's a deal here that needs to be made. Now, it could be at the end of the day that Hamas, and we can't ignore this possibility, Hamas doesn't want a deal. Hamas knows that the hostages are its asset insurance policy. They will never give up all of them, right? But I don't know how to pressure Hamas. That's not something you or I can do. We have a government. Right. That's by the way, Israel was established. Like all these people who say, put the pressure on Hamas. Of course. But we created a state here for the Jewish people to be able to express self-determination, right? And to express an opinion and to change policy. Our government is the one that sets that policy. So while I agree that Hamas is ultimately responsible, I don't have an address to protest with Hamas. I do have one with my government here in Israel. And therefore, I think that when you look at what they've done, and that is first, and let's go back, let's be honest for a moment, Vivian. In March, the ceasefire fell apart. No one still really knows why it fell apart. It was supposed to go to stage 2. The government here said that it was because of these festival releases that Hamas was doing, which were in violation. But maybe the deal could have continued. I mean, we're jumping every time from one tactical move to another without a clear strategy here.
There isn't a clear strategy.
Correct. No, we're lacking one. We're lacking one to what to do with the hostages. We're lacking one what to do with Gaza the day after. And, it's easy for us to sit in our respective home offices and talk about this, but there are people, as we saw this week, who don't have the time or the luxury here.
It's not easy for us.
I mean, it's not easy, but it's easier.
Not in the tunnels,
Correct.
experiencing the horrors, but we have hearts and souls and brains. And I think that the level of detachment, the level of callousness, we saw Steve Witkoff, again, come to Israel. He spent, I think, 5 hours in the Gaza Strip with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation people, assessing on the ground what's going on there. Is it working? Is it too chaotic? Should it be continued? We don't know, of course, what he's reporting to the president or what he has reported. He also spent 2 hours meeting with hostage families at Hostage Square in Tel Aviv. 2 hours the man sat with them. It was, by all accounts, a very tense, difficult meeting. And he said, I'm done with these, as you say, these partial deals. I want them all out. They have to all get out. We have to do this. Many of the families said, we've been hearing this for too long and nothing is happening. Nothing is moving. Rom Braslavski's father, Ophir, said that last night on TV about the meeting with Witkoff. It's just the time for talking and dealing is so over. And I mean, we can assume assuredly that they've had expert medical assessments tell them that these young men and all of the hostages, assuming they're being treated similarly, have maybe hours, maybe days. I would say probably not even weeks. So here we are, and Witkoff comes out, and as I wrote on my site the other day, not his usual buoyant self. He's always he conveys positivity. He did not when he left. He looked glum. He was surrounded by a phalanx of security. He did not speak to any of the media, which is unusual for him. And then he went to meet with Prime Minister Netanyahu. We're also looking at a situation where I think we can assume that President Trump and Steve Witkoff are at their wits' end in dealing with Prime Minister Netanyahu and his government. They've given him room. They've given him freedom to operate and bring this to an end. And now, even Witkoff said, there is no military reason for this war. He said bluntly in one of his comments, this is a political war.
You know, the other part about Witkoff, which I commend him for all his efforts, of course, but the other part of Witkoff is that the families of the hostages, like you said, he went to Hostage Square, met with the forum of the families for a couple hours. They are basically putting their cards on the Americans. Like, they think it's the Americans who are going to bring the deal. They've lost trust within our own government. And that just speaks volumes of this situation, that we need to rely on someone else to bring back our people. I mean, these aren't American citizens who are there, but we need the Americans to do it because we can't trust this government. How ridiculous is that reality? But that's unfortunate what we're facing.
One of the parents that was in that room said, I heard it on the radio, I think, it was such a difficult meeting. And he stayed and sat with us for 2 hours. But he said at least he had the decency and the courage and the integrity to come into the room and look us in the eye. Our own prime minister does not do that. So people outside of Israel, you're sitting there saying what's going on, and I want you to understand that so are we. And the pain is profound, and we are desperate for our government to bring them home, and they simply are ignoring us. And I want to close with this, Yakov. Are we going to take to the streets? It's the only lever we have, is to get 2 million Israelis onto the streets and bring this country to a halt. I can't think of anything else that could possibly work. And I do think we should do it now, right now. This isn't a partisan issue. This is, in my view, about the soul of this country. What's your parting comment?
I couldn't agree more with what you just said. This is about the soul of the country. It's about the future of the country. That's a big statement to say, just about 20 people, that the future doesn't hinge on them. Of course, not physically. But if we allow this to happen, if we lose these 20 people, knowing that there was a possibility to get them, it's a stain on all of us. And it's a stain definitely on the people who are making the decisions. But I think you're right. We all play a role. We all could take to the streets. We all could speak out. We could go protest. We could talk. We can put up a sticker, a poster, you name it. Stand at an intersection with a yellow ribbon or a yellow string or flag. It doesn't make a difference. Everyone has a role to play, and we have to keep up the pressure on all sides. Yes, Hamas, of course Hamas, and the Qataris and the Egyptians, but also this government. That goes without saying. Also this government.
I'm not a union person myself, but I'm going to address the Histadrut, which is the largest trade union in this country, which has brought this country to a standstill on many occasions in the past over frivolous things by comparison, like the price of a chocolate pudding. I mean, they have used their power many times.
Now is that time, 100%.
Exactly. The Histadrut and every large organization in this country must come together and organize something for tomorrow. And I'm going to take us out, Yakov, with the words of Evyatar David himself, gaunt, squatting in that tunnel, when he says, I've been abandoned. These are not the values of Israel. These are not the values of the country in which I was raised. You have to save my life. how much more simple, profound, and eloquent does it get? Thank you, Yakov.
Thank you.
So, as I said when speaking with Yakov, it seems fitting to finish this short update with another clip from the video of Evyatar David in the tunnel, in which Evyatar addresses Prime Minister Netanyahu directly. He says that all the values that he was raised with, that the state will do anything to free a prisoner. That's Hamas's word, by the way. They call them prisoners. He is not a prisoner. He is a hostage. That the state will do anything to free a prisoner, a hostage, from the enemy. That is what he was raised to believe. And it's all a lie, he says. Of course, the statement from Evyatar was coerced. He was told what to say. He's a hostage. This is psychological warfare at its best. Hamas has demonstrated consistently that they really are peerless purveyors of unspeakable sadism. I think that they understand the Israeli psyche better than most Israelis do, certainly better than our leaders seem to. But even if coerced, there is a lot of truth to what Evyatar is saying, that if he is not released, rescued, that the values which he was raised on, that speak to the paramount duty of the state to rescue every prisoner and hostage who is in captivity with the enemy. Who will believe the government when it proclaims such values in the future? Again, please consider supporting our work today, and thank you, as always, for being here.
להגיד לראש הממשלה, לנתניהו, שאני פשוט מרגיש שאני מופקר פה לחלוטין. אני איתך, בתור ראש הממשלה שלי, שאמור לדאוג לי ולכל האסירים מתוך מה שאני גדלתי אליו במדינת ישראל, שבו דואגים לאסירים, דואגים לשבויים, למי שנמצא בשבי האויב, ונראה שאני מופקר על ידך, על ידי הממשלה הזאת. כל מה שלימדו אותי וכל מה שגדלתי עליו פשוט לא נכון. שקר. מה שאני עושה עכשיו, אני חופר את הקבר, הקבר שמיועד מבחינתי לי.
We love hearing from you, so please comment on our website, stateoftelaviv.com, or send us a note to hello@stateoftelaviv.com. On behalf of the State of Tel Aviv core team, Yon Zabo, our creative, graphic, visual, and marketing man, Amir White, producer and editor extraordinaire, sound guy, who is also impressively patient with me and my boomer tech deficiencies, and our social media manager who pitches in on everything, Maya Naftalin. Thanks to the team. Thanks to you for being here. We'll be back soon.